Never thirsty. Never thirsty.
So where were you getting your music? Like when you start recording tracks. So like you're a kid in high school, you're in 9th grade. Like where do you even get a track from?
YouTube. Yeah, come on,
is that
man.
how it works?
Yeah, I was that like I was a part of that.
Tell me, because we don't know. We're old heads. I want to hear how this works. So you go on YouTube and you find a track you like, or how does it work?
All right, so back then, like I said, all those guys, they music, like all you would go in and do is like, all right, I want a song that sound like I don't know, something off Section 80. So I go Kendrick Lamar type beat, a Currency type beat, a Dom Kennedy type beat. So I came up on the type beat era, you know what I'm saying? And like just rapping, and like I started in my bedroom, like off a little HP laptop. And like I really started on a gooseneck mic, like the desktop gooseneck mics. But I eventually graduated to like the Samson C01U. That was like the ghetto Newman. That was the ghetto Newman back then. But like, you know, I did that, and like that's pretty much how I developed my whole.
So when you're getting those beats off YouTube, you're just like, because now that you're saying it, I do remember seeing stuff like that back then, like Kendrick Lamar type beat. So like you get those tracks. Do you have to buy the track off the producer, or you just put out the song? Like who cares? You just
So back then I was saying it, like I had no knowledge of that. I was just trying to rap, you know what I'm saying, and just put my out. So I was just snatching, not knowing the proper business. I was like 14, 15, 16, something like that. You know, so I'm just like ripping niggas beats and just putting it out until like I eventually learned, oh, I can get a lease for this beat and I can still, you know, put it out and do what the hell I want to do with it.
How does that work? What do you mean a lease for the beat? What is that?
Like, so like producers like online now, instead of like, you know, I'm pretty sure you've heard of exclusive rights for a beat, right? Of
course, yes.
Oh, yeah, so like for a lease, they might sell the lease for like $25 to $50, but like you get like it's restricted, so you can only distribute like so many copies, like 3,000 copies, or like, you know, 2 radio distributions, like that. Like you don't have unlimited use of the instrumental. So, but as a 15, 16-year-old, I was like, I'm just putting my on the internet anyway. So I mean, that the other radio didn't mean nothing to me.
Right.
Until, you know. So
when did it start getting? When did you sort of figure out? Okay, wait a minute, this is working. Shout out to Cam, by the way. So tell us, when did you realize that this thing was working?
So like during that time, I was dropping a lot of songs through like the blog. So I really came up on Pigeons and Planes. Like I don't know if you're familiar with it. Yeah. So like I came up like 2014. I sent my first song to this guy named John Tanners, and it was called Badistan, and it was pretty much a play off Afghanistan, but like Baton Rouge, Badistan type. So like I was just describing on like all this shit that was going on, you know, the Brave Team, the scat like that, like, and it was just like I guess he had never heard like a kid from Baton Rouge talk like that or describe my surroundings the way I did. Because I was at the time I was like 15, you know what I'm saying?
You were painting a different picture than he was imagining.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, you know, our prior kings was Boosie Webby, you know, so it was when you think of Baton Rouge, you thinking of a certain dynamic already. Certain style, certain dynamic. You're not thinking about you
were painting like thought-provoking pictures. It wasn't just like rap. What you're saying?
Yeah, but it was still some like young people could get down with, you know what I'm saying? Like it was jamming type. I don't know if that makes sense. Like it wasn't like I was preaching.
No, it does. Authentic. It's authentic. There's certain guys that you can listen to, and even a guy like me, like, I'm listening to the newer generation of music. There's certain guys that I hear and I'm like, okay, that sounds legit. Like that guy's real. What he's talking about is real. And like, you can just sort of tell that there's certain guys that just have that authenticity. And I think that's very important, especially in music, and in hip hop, which is an art form where you're telling stories about Baton Rouge and some other guys telling stories about LA and some guys telling stories about San Francisco or whatever. It's like the authentic experience is what people are truly after. I think it's more so than, you know, like the party records, which we all love, but the real stuff that an artist is defined by, I think, is what you're talking about.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, absolutely, and like that was kind of like the whole like process behind my new album I dropped earlier this year. It was titled Nevaeh, a memoir. It's basically heaven spelled backwards.
Oh,
but like yeah, it was
that's
some
pretty cool.
yeah, it was some interesting like. I caught part of the inspiration from Scarface. I don't know if you ever heard the Fix album. You got a record called Heaven on there. You know what I'm saying? If you haven't heard it, go check it out. It's a real dope, you know, real dope record, real dope concept. But nah, like my whole shit was like describing like a real experience in my life and not making it too fast. Like, you know how you listen to albums and it's just like, oh, all like climax is like, nah, that's not how real life kind of go. It's slow paced parts. You got parts where you're gonna be up and you got parts where you just like this, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I just really wanted to get that dynamic across on this album, defining like, you know, the family relationships, the relationships with your significant others, the relationships with your people and like your communities, you know, your friends, you know what I'm saying? Like that's pretty much what the whole
I think there's like a whole kind of movement like that's happening right now that's kind of like what you're talking about, because I know there was like, you know, at least a decade of a period where like most popular music in hip hop was just like, you know, brag music. I've got this, I've got that, I'm driving this, I'm spending that, and I'm banging this person, et cetera, et cetera. But now I'm seeing there's like more honesty that's breaking through, where people are talking about real stuff, like what you're saying. Like, you know, I mean, I'm not saying I'm trying to put on like a depression record, but there's a lot of depressing records out there.
You got Logic out there doing that too.
Yeah, a lot of sad songs, a lot of, and not just like, you know, my friends are dead, like, you know, inner thought type stuff. And there's a lot of honesty, and the storytelling is sort of changed, and there's sort of like this sort of, I hate to say, like there's this Bob Dylan sort of era of hip hop happening right now, where it's like these sort of poetic storytellers are sort of coming to the forefront. And I would say maybe Kendrick is one of the flag bearers for it, because you mentioned him. But is that sort of where you want to? Is that sort of the flag that you want to wave?
Not necessarily. I just want to really give like a accurate description of the human experience, like of the Black experience. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, to go back to what you said real quick, how you felt like the last decade was a lot of braggadocious records, and it was like, you know, those were cool because, you know, I'm a young guy, so like I love those records, but at the same time, it's like the real part of it is like, give us the other side of that. You know what I'm saying? Give us the other side. Like, you can't just go kill a nigga and, you know, go home and not even sleep. Like, you know, this just don't work like that. You know what I'm saying? You can't do all you saying and you don't have no effect after it. You got the cause, but what's the, you know, what happens after? Like, so I think we're getting back to that, like telling the full scope of things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's like we went from like records like about like everybody's winning and win, and now it's like, well, sometimes you lose.
Yeah.
It's like songs about
Never thirsty. Never thirsty.